Thank you, Steve. Good morning, everyone. It's an honor and privilege to be in front of you. I've been attending Velocity since 2008, and it's literally a dream come true. So we're going to talk about disasters. So the first thing is, what are my credentials to talk about disasters? Obviously, I didn't save healthcare.gov. That was taken by someone else yesterday. But in 1999, I was a sales engineer at DoubleClick, you know, that company that was popping up ads on your computers, bought by Google. And so I was sick in bed, and I was bored. So I decided to delete a GIF in the ad servers. Yeah, it's a GIF. It was a transparent GIF. Who cares? And unfortunately, that was the GIF file that was used for the load balancers to check on the health of the ad servers. So I deleted that. And, you know, I was starting to get emails like the other guys were complaining. And suddenly I get a phone call from my VP of Ops, our VP of Ops. I wasn't working for him at that time. It's like, what the F did you do? I just deleted that GIF, you know. And so anyway, I took down the DoubleClick ad serving system for 3 hours in 1999. And so that was our longest lasting outage. So those are my credentials. It's not like you're dealing with Michael Brown, who went from horse breeding to FEMA, right? So I broke a system, guilty as charged. So, sorry, Bethany, it also happens to the best of us, to the biggest of us. I didn't know she was speaking before me. So anyway, Facebook went down 3 times last month. Not only it impacted the people that wanted to poke at each other and whatnot, but it also took down logging systems. It also took down comments of other websites. And so it made life miserable for a lot of folks. So it happens to the biggest and the best of us. So there is no book you can buy. There is no course you can take, whether at Stanford, MIT, or Brookings College, that will teach you how to run a perfect system. Thomas Edison went through 2,000 attempts to build a light bulb. It just took him 2,000 experiments, right? At the end, he succeeded. So the path is filled with failures, and our job is literally to learn from those failures, and that's how we get better. Most of you guys here, ladies and gentlemen, are here to deliver great user experience to whatever you're doing, whether it's buying an airline ticket, buying something on Etsy, social experiment, etc. So we are navigating these tough waters. Literally, they're complex. We've been talking about complexity yesterday, today. And things are just getting more and more complex. You're dealing with DNS systems, you're dealing with CDNs, you're dealing with wireless networks, you're dealing with governments, whether it's in China or even in South Korea, where the governments are impacting the delivery of your assets or your objects or your JavaScripts, etc. So things are getting more and more complex, and our job is how to deal with these things to deliver great user experience. As we've heard, again, a lot today, is complexity adds risk. I'm going to give you an example. So let's say you built an unbelievable website that is going, and you guarantee to your CEO that you will achieve 100% availability. Great job. But you have to add a Facebook button, a Twitter button, a Google Analytics tag, another DoubleClick tag, for example. And so right there, you have just decreased your overall availability from 100% to 99.95. That's what complexity does to whatever you guys are doing. So you have to remember that complexity adds risk. So here's a live example, actually, not live, but a real example that happened Cyber Monday last year. At the top, you have a chart that shows the response time of a particular tracking pixel that basically couldn't handle the load of this e-commerce website. And at the bottom, what you see is the actual performance and response time of the total end-user experiments of that e-commerce site. And you can see the impact it had. So obviously, that third-party pixel was not prepared to handle 20,000 orders a minute that e-commerce was dealing with. So again, make sure that don't let anybody in your house, basically. Not everybody should, you know. Be careful who you invite. So A lot of things can cause failures. You have acts of gods, Katrina in New York, for example, and the data centers that flooded, for example. You have DDoS attacks. You have bugs, whether it's a Cisco bug or your own software bug. And then you have human error. In my case, remember the first example I gave you, I was horizontal and not vertical like this guy. But so all these things can create failures. And so what do you do? Oh, I forgot about this guy also. I love this guy. He's in all my slides. We tend to forget about the damage he can do to fibers. So, no matter what you guys do, you will fail. So let's just get it out. We will fail no matter what we do. We just have to be ready. So, yesterday, I was struck by the example that Mikey said about healthcare.gov. He walked in and there wasn't even monitoring in place. It's like, okay. So that's like the first thing that you need to have is like, do you want your customers to tell you that you're down or do you want to find out beforehand? So what do you do when there is a failure, when failure does happen? The first thing, in my opinion, and I've seen this over and over again, is the lack of playbooks. Because what you don't want is at 2 o'clock in the morning getting a page and saying, okay, what do I do now? No, that needs to be prepared. You need to have that already, and you just flip through the pages. If I'm an airline pilot, 30,000 feet, and there is a light bulb that goes red, the guy jumps and picks his iPad now or his old books, and he goes, it's like, okay, what does that red button mean? So you need to have a set of playbooks on how to deal with failures. And you need to practice those. So practice in this slide means going through those playbooks, experimenting, making sure do drills, but also capacity testing. And when I mean capacity testing, it's also on your third parties. Remember that Pixel that couldn't handle the load of that e-commerce site? So that's very important. Practicing is very important. That's how we get better. And by the way, I have no knowledge of football. So it's the marketing team that put all these things together. But anyway, so you need to have backup. I'm more like a soccer guy. But anyway, so you need to have backups in place. Backups mean disaster recovery, a failover site. But it also means, and I've seen that a few times in the e-commerce seasons, is you have a very rich web page with a lot of database calls and whatnot. And then when that stuff cannot handle the actual load, they switch to a very lightweight page. And that makes life a little bit easier for the end users. Worst case, have a funny web page error. There is nothing wrong with making fun at yourself. Actually, I think customers love it. Give a coupon, give a discount. Tell them I'll be back and I'll give you something for free. But making fun and turning something negative like this into a positive experience for the end users is very, very important. Collect data. This is something that I don't see a lot of people do when there is a failure, and I didn't see that at DoubleClick, for example. When we used to have problems. You had the network guy trying to fix the router, and then somebody on the phone was screaming, hey, can you do a show command, something? No, you need to have separate people that are collecting data and let the actual guys that are doing the work do the work. You don't want the doctor doing a surgery, and then the other guys can hey, can I have that tool? No, the guy's busy. So collecting data is very important, and you have to have a lot of data being collected. It's unbelievable how it will make your life easier after all. Share postmortem analysis. So there are different ways of doing this, obviously, but I think it starts by being honest with each other inside your company, obviously. Don't lie, don't hide, don't put things under the carpet. If somebody screwed up, okay, I screwed up. But sharing the postmortem data is very important. And then from here, what is very, very important is to go back and update the playbooks that we talked about earlier. It's very important. So if you don't update those things, then you haven't learned anything. That this new failure is not going to improve your next recovery next time it happens. A final example, a shout out to the New York Times. Last summer they went down for a few hours. I think they were under attack by the Syrian army or something like that. And what was amazing about them is, it's the news. The news cannot stop. The press can't stop, right? And so what they did is, they didn't have a funny error page, obviously. I mean, their site was completely offline. But then they took to other mediums to keep the news going. And that was an unbelievable recovery that they had. So, anyway, I have 28 more seconds to go, but thank you so much. And again, it's a pleasure. pleasure to be in front of all of you. Thank you.